Everybody hear me? Good? Okay. My name is Jamison Budacki. I'm an information security architect at a Fortune 500 company. Been there for about 8 years almost. Before that, I was a senior engineer at a Fortune 100 tech firm. This is my first time presenting at DerbyCon, so I'm pretty excited about that. Thank you for your thunderous applause. So the main point here is we're going to tell you a little bit about the history of our tabletop exercises, what went well and what didn't. We're also going to share some templates with you to help jumpstart your own tabletop exercises. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big pain, so it gets a lot of that mumbo jumbo out of the way. Basically, but practicing incident responses, tabletop exercises is kind of all about understanding weaknesses in people, process, and technology, and to help inform and educate other departments, not necessarily in information security. So what is a tabletop exercise? Yeah, that's a lot of words. So what is it really? It's really discussion-based. It's meant to simulate an emergency, helps people understand their roles and responsibilities, test response procedures, also looking to test predefined objectives before you even start. Makes use of realistic content, and it has to be relatively cheap. So what really is a tabletop exercise? Kind of based off that long definition. But before we get there, let's talk about a little bit of history. In 2017, the information security team did a group-led tabletop exercise by a large financial services group with other companies in it. It was kind of a one-size-fits-all. It was their first go at it, and it kind of left a little bit to be desired. But the good news is in 2018, we used that as a source of inspiration to create the choose-your-own tabletop exercise model that we're going to talk about. In 2019, we went back to the group-led one, mostly because priorities and work schedules, and it takes a little bit of time to do these. But the group did take a lot of feedback from the various companies, and it was a little bit better. Still wasn't great. It lacked a little bit of personalization, obviously. But as we know, tabletop exercises as a whole were kind of linear, very boring, lacked the substance that kind of makes that you see on a day-to-day basis, and the reality did not really live up to the expectations. So a lot of times we expected to get a unicorn and we ended up getting a donkey. So that's the reason why we decided to make our own. So like the famous philosopher Mike Tyson always says, everybody has a plan until they gets punched in the mouth. This is particularly true as you have to have a plan before you even do anything. And even when you have that plan, in the heat of the moment, it may not go well. But it's more than just a plan, it's a practice. We practice a lot of things in life, whether it be sports, exercise. I'm a volunteer firefighter, so we do a lot of training. When you go to a car accident, you have to have plan A in mind. If that doesn't work, you have to have plan B, C, and D in mind as well. So we do this a lot for various topics, but we don't really do it well and do it enough for incident response. So why is that? Time, various things could come into play, but tabletop exercises are a great way to start that. So like I alluded to earlier, our history in tabletop exercises, not that much. A big group situation, one size fits all, and we felt pretty empty afterwards. But like I said, it did motivate us to do something better for the team and create the Choose Your Own Adventure tabletop. So what are some of the prerequisites before you even start a tabletop exercise? Obviously, you have to have a plan. For us, we have our CCERT handbook and playbooks. So our handbook is our high-level policy about what the CCERT team does, how incident response works, and our playbooks are more compasses rather than maps for new team members and individuals on the team to give them an idea of things that they should be doing next. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not going to get everything out of the way, but it heads them in the right direction. Your team might know what to do, but it's also important for the team to know what not to do. Lastly is you don't want to panic. Time and time again, people have read the plays, read the playbooks, they understand everything, and when they're in the heat of the moment during an incident, they panic and they start to do things that they think might make sense but may not. So we're a financial services company. We like to root everything in best practices. I like to say we try to make use of other smart people's work, and this is no exception. We found the MITRE Cyber Exercise Playbook by Jason Kick. It's a great short read. It highlights various, 3 different types of exercises you can do. Obviously the tabletop is here, but the other one is a hybrid, which involves live actions, aka injects. These can be scans, probes, and alerts that go on in the environment. And the most mature is a full live, which is a red team versus blue team situation. But getting back to the tabletop, and what we liked about it was that it's fully scripted and makes use of injects. The complexity is relatively low, and it's good for limited resources. One thing to call out is the timing. It said it would take 1 to 2 months to plan it and 1 to 3 days to execute. That is absolutely true. I originally thought I was going to be able, me and another resource were going to be able to do this in 1 week, plan it out, but it took a month and a half. It takes a lot of work, and it's a lot. That was probably the most surprising thing that I came across. It also matched our organization, that we're new to tabletop exercises, and we wanted to kind of really test our processes that we had in place. So the first step after that is to establish a goal. So our goal was pretty basic. It was to create a baseline for future exercises, to raise the awareness of what CSERT is and what we do, as well as to test the skills of our employees. Objectives, as you can see, identify strengths and weaknesses, assess our IR reporting. So this is a key one here. At the time, our incident response platform was new. This is the way we keep track of all of our incidents, and it was very new to the team. We wanted to be able to measure communication, as well as identify any sources of data gaps that we may have. Think about these when you're creating your scenarios as well. They're called pain points, and if you're picking on a certain area, you may want to think about it and then help bring it to light. And we also wanted to train the effectiveness of our internal training, of how we onboard new employees. Are they understanding how things work? People involved, there's a long list. A couple that I'd like to pick out here is crisis prevention management. That's kind of the notion of partner with somebody in a different area of the company that either has done this before or has a unique perspective. For us, the crisis prevention management team, they do tabletop exercises quite a bit. They're not cybersecurity related. They're more active shooter, bomb threat related. So they have a little bit of experience in this. I would also say to have 3 to 4 scribes during the process, just dedicated scribes. They are there to take notes of things that happen, and that you really got to key them in to where the decisions are going to be made, and they can take really good notes, and that helps out quite a bit. Lastly, make sure strategic communications and physical security, in our case, are there, because we decided to pick on them a bit. We had our tabletop involve physical security as well as communications, and ironically enough, we didn't invite anybody from strategic communications until a couple days before the exercise. It's kind of a miss on our side. Lastly, 2 people should run and host the tabletop exercise. So in our situation, it was myself and my colleague. We kind of created the tabletop scenario, so we knew about it, so it would be unfair for us to participate. But these 2 hosts do not participate at all. So when we get into the adventure build out, there's some main points that we're going to talk about coming up. We're going to talk about those pain points. These really help you make your scenario. The operational environment, these are pretty basic. Room setup, make sure everybody can hear everybody, make sure there's enough seats, make sure everybody sees everything, projectors, things like that. Some of the core ingredients for the tabletop, this is kind of when you get into the PM area and a lot of that mumbo jumbo I was referring to earlier. And then lastly, we created this notion of alternative realities. They were, if you make a good decision, you'll get a hint, or you will be told some information that helps you along in your investigation. Whereas if you make a bad choice, you may cause more work for yourself and you may not get that hint. So pain points were pretty simple. We wanted to root them in data or facts. So we wanted to use real world hacks that were going on in the industry or anything. At the time, I believe it was social media takeovers in 2017 of entertainment companies, as well as any previous incidents that may have popped up during the past. For us, it was a production site being affected by an outage. Also, you want to mix in feelings or perceptions. So think business nightmares. What are some of the things that will be very detrimental to your company? For us, it was a new one. It was maybe the news media finds out that the company's been owned. How would we react to that? That made a lot of people pretty squeamish. And lastly, push past the limits of comfort. That's one example, but also incorporate physical security. You may not be getting all the data that you can get, and this would be a good opportunity to highlight that and show, hey, if this data was available, we'd be able to get to the solution quicker. Operational environment, like I alluded to, room layout, play nice with others, follow the rules, do your part. These are some other key aspects that we talked about before we started. We specifically said the incident response platform is operational and ready to use. The team can and should make use of any CCERT playbooks or handbooks. Normal team facilities are available. This is a very important one too. Questions can be answered of the hosts of the tabletop, but not all questions may be answered. The two of the senior more CCERT resources were offsite at a work event and not easily accessible. You can mix this up however you want. You can say the CISO is not available at the time, so you'll have to operate without them, or the second line manager is not available, so you have to operate without them. And also, most importantly, anyone available can be involved. So you can pick up the phone and call somebody in IT operations if you have a question, and they can help you out. And we actually pre-selected some people and gave them some information just in case if they were to call. So into those core ingredients, some of the paperwork things, rooted in best practice, the MITRE best practice, even some NIST, even though it's more DR tabletop exercise, but there's still some value there. The charter, this is kind of the main document. It really lays out your background, purpose, objectives, participants, and any project milestones. The next thing to do is create an outline of the scenario and then build that into a script. And then from that script, you create a flow diagram, which we'll show next, and that will really kind of highlight some of the key points where all those alternate realities can come into play, where good information or bad information can come in, and really kind of key those scribes into those points to take really good notes. Hot wash is kind of a simple way to ask repetitive questions during various aspects of the exercise. So some of these questions are, what action did you take? What core InfoSec principles are being affected? Confidentiality, integrity, or availability? What other teams did you get involved at this point? What do you do next? This is a great way to get the thought that's going on and all the people that are participating out and onto paper, and the scribes can really kind of pick up on those too. Lastly is follow-up. So survey is another good one. If I've learned one thing from taking classes in the volunteer fire department is do a quick survey on paper, 5 questions, 1 open-ended question, and get it to them and collect it before they leave. Don't let them leave until you get that, otherwise you won't get the information. Another good thing is the after-action report. We kind of broke it down as one after-action report for the larger group and a subset for the InfoSec team, as well as any lessons learned. So the lessons learned are really crucial for making yourself better. The other thing that we wanted to try to attempt was create an exercise application, if you will. Nothing crazy, but not PowerPoint. We kind of wanted to really kill the notion of using the PowerPoint because we felt at the time that that's what was driving a lot of the linear thinking that we had. So once again, the alternate realities, good choices lead to bonus, bad choices lead to potentially punishment or more work. Once again, really kind of tell the scribes where these are going to be, and the adventure map that you'll see next will really show those and highlight them and tune them into it. So the adventure map, it's quite simple. Not sure how well you can read it. Once again, this is all part of the template that you'll be able to get, as well as slides if necessary. So you create your outline, you make this flow chart. It's critical to show the points where you anticipate any of those realities and really tune the scribes into. So you can, at the start, you can have your backstory. You can have a typical day. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. An alert comes in, and they take the alert and do something with it. Then somebody comes in and says, hey, from the marketing team, there's a real incident going on. I need you to investigate this. And then the question can come up, did they follow the proper chain of command? If they did yes, you can see that it goes up. No, they didn't. And if they did yes, the incident management team would be involved. And this is a way you can bring other teams into it to give a briefing of what they do, what's their role. If they don't, that comes in at the end anyways, and it's known that they missed it, but they still have the chance to give their input to the other team and tell them what's going on. The Adventure app, it's really simple. It's just basic HTML, super simple, super quick to use. We've actually figured out a way to do this in PowerPoint now too, which kind of defeats the purpose of killing PowerPoint, but this was easy for me and an intern to get a handle on. As you can see, kind of layout, the day, the day starts, the SOC begins to be stood up, they get a notification, you can make it interactive, you can give them a handout, here comes the notification, it's a lot of the things that we see on a day-to-day basis. You can ask some of those hot wash questions, what steps did you take, what are you doing next? Then as the story progresses, you can see the InfoSec team receives notice from a senior marketing specialist, and they begin to investigate the problem. Once again, those hot wash questions come in. What did you do? Who are you getting involved? What are you going to do next? During that questioning, they said, well, it looks like this is a potential incident, so we're going to follow the chain of command, which is a really basic thing in the high-level policy. You get the question, did they follow the proper chain of command? And it turns out to be a yes. The story progresses even further, and the CEO and CIO are walking, and the news crew ambushes them and asks them about the recent cyber attack, and asks if any customer information has been affected. So since they did choose the proper chain of command, the CEO and CI knew about it and say, no comment, which ironically is exactly what you're not supposed to do, according to our marketing team. And we're like, what do you mean? That's exactly what I do. And they said, no, you're supposed to say, please contact so-and-so at the marketing part in the corporation. And we were like, we didn't know that. And they said, well, it's on our internal website, and it's the #1 story right now. And we're like, oh, okay, good to know. So don't pretend like you know everything, because you definitely don't. So the good piece of information that came along with this too is you didn't get a negative reaction, a call from the CEO, CIO yelling at you, but you also find out that Facebook and Twitter have been compromised. Instagram is okay, and the reason Instagram is okay is because of two-factor authentication was enabled. If they didn't follow the proper chain of command, they wouldn't have got the bonus. The bonus is that third line there. It's a hint for at the end. Once again, what would you do with this information? So during this result, how did the team do? We did a pretty good job of identifying some strengths and weaknesses. We did not use the incident response platform, so that was kind of a miss. It was a brand new tool for the team and may not have thought of it. We didn't do a great job of measuring communication. There's various anecdotes for that as well. But we did do a good job in finding some identifying data gaps that we have, and we did test our training effectiveness quite a bit. So some of the outputs that will be available within the templates are a sign-in form, detailed notes. This is a really good way for the scribes to make use of things. A sample survey, ad hoc feedback is another thing that we got from it. So a great example is from the marketing team. They said, hey, that would never have happened. And the after-action report. Some of the lessons learned, it's a lot of work, so plan for it. Even in a tabletop, it says it's going to take 1 to 2 months, and it will to plan it. Learn from all the other individuals involved, aka the teams that you pick to partner with, crisis prevention management, and even marketing. So a miss on my part was that we didn't involve them quick enough, and we could have had much more valuable information from them. Vet with a trusted source. Once again, use somebody in the organization that has done this before or knows a little bit more about it. Doesn't have to have anything to do with cybersecurity either. Lastly, build the story all the way through recovery, because we kind of went through and we got everything remediated, and then we just kind of stopped the exercise. We didn't go through of how are you going to recover the system, or how are you going to recover the social media accounts. So we kind of fell short on that. Future stuff, we want to do more with this style. We want to improve and get more to a hybrid model, do more live injects, make better use of our tools, obviously, and then have a notion of a surprise tabletop. So maybe have a set week or set month time period and give one person the ability to push the button to say that, hey, the tabletop is live now, rather than it being an invite on a calendar and it can be well planned. It'll be more of a realistic test. Also push the team more into cloud incidents and automation of those incidents. So typical things that you're going to see are, account credential compromise, resource compromise that could lead to crypto mining, and any publicly available asset. Lastly, a couple minutes left. Templates are available here on GitHub. Here's the link if anybody wants it. They'll also, I'll probably tweet this later so it can be out there. Lastly, from Black Hills, just this today, Backdoors and Breaches was released for the DerbyCon crowd. Seems like a pretty cool deck, slide deck. It might be another great source of information. If not, you can use it as a source of inspiration for your injects as well. And I think it's going to be in public release in January or December coming up here. But that's the information if you want to take it down. And I got 4 minutes left if anybody has any questions. Good.
Do you have all your players in the room waiting for the index to hit them, or were you dynamically building your response team that you gave them all?
That's a good question. So we had the predefined team.
Question for the board?
Sure thing. The question was something along the lines, did you have everybody in the room, or were you adding people as things popped up, correct? Okay, so we had a predefined meeting invite, classic kind of tabletop thing. We had probably about 40 different people in the room. So we part of our intention was to over-invite as well, to get more knowledge out there. But yeah, we had it kind of well scripted, once again, very tabletop driven, so. All right. Thank you. Oh, one more question.
40 people is a lot for one room. Each table is like this. Manage 40 people doing this.
Okay, so the question was, how did you manage 40 people in one room? That's one of the things that we talk about is the environment, is we have a big conference area, a big conference room, and we were able to facilitate that many people. We actually had 7 to 10 big round tables, and it's kind of a bigger meeting area. So we made use of that, and we had a projector and everything that we just projected everything, and handouts were given as needed. So that's another thing to think about is the list is going to grow. We originally started with maybe 30, maybe 25 to 30, and then it grew to 40 plus because people would invite people. So you have to take into account for that as well. One more.
Have you used the Department of Homeland Security lead sheet templates at all?
The question was, have you used the Department of Homeland Security's templates at all? We did look at those to begin with. They were also kind of looked at, but we kind of wanted to create something that was more true to us. They're also a great resource as well to use. All right, thank you.